can reclaim now, yeah? Thanks, good evening.
Bye, everyone.
So, good morning, good afternoon, everyone again. Very nice to be here once again, another Saturday for our study of the Medium's book. So it's time for us to start. And as usual, we start with an opening prayer. So I invite you all to close your eyes and leave aside all problems that we all have. And during these special moments, connect to our guardian angel and the benefactors, so that we may receive the lessons of today with an open mind and open heart. And together with them, have a better understanding of the realities of spirit life and mediumship. So, with their permission, we would like to start our study of today. So be it.
Mum, could you put the music down a bit?
Okay, let me share my book with you all. Can you all see the book?
Yes.
Okay, good. So last time we were studying chapter 23. Chapter 23 is about obsession. And we started this item, causes of obsession. It hasn't started here. I just brought down the subtitle so that we could, locate exactly where we are in this chapter. And we stopped here, item 247. Theorizing spirits are nearly always scribblers, which is why they seek out mediums who write easily, attempting to make them their tamed and especially enthusiastic instrument through fascination. Such spirits are generally verbose and very prolix, seeking to make up for a lack of quality through quantity. So this is a characteristic of this type of spirit. Last week, we studied that this type of spirit, they are not necessarily evil spirits, but what they want to do is just to spread their ideas, their thoughts, and when they find a medium, and he especially mediums who write, so they try to, have the medium working exclusively for them. And some characteristics are, they talk a lot. They use too many words to say, almost nothing. And they use the mediumship, constantly. So the medium basically writes all the time. And I think we have already seen last week a case where the medium couldn't stop. I'm not sure if it was last week or the week before. The medium couldn't stop writing. Basically, it was writing everywhere. Even, in the streets would stop, and whatever he or she found, that could allow to scribble few words, they would do that under the impulse of the spirit. And one thing I want to highlight is the importance of the medium of having control, not just control over the body, the influence of the spirit, but also moral control. We'll see how important it is throughout the whole process, and also in the case of preventing, a simple case of obsession turning into something more serious like subjugation or even fascination. They take pleasure in dictating to their interpreters voluminous, indigestible, and very often barely intelligible writings, which fortunately have as side effects the material impossibility of being read by the masses. So they write so much, so many pages about so many things, that in the end, from the practical aspect of it, it becomes impossible to publish or to reach, a large number of people. And it's interesting how it's put here, side effects, fortunate side effects. Truly high-order spirits are frugal with words, saying much in only a few lines. Prodigious fecundity should always be regarded with suspicion. So spirits who write treatises about small things should, the message should be carefully analyzed, and also, the presence of this spirit and the content of the message that, this spirit writes through the medium. Because as they say here, good spirits, they come and they say things with few words. They don't go over and over writing treatises about any subject, as if they were just trying to, one, put their ideas forward, and second, to keep the medium busy for themselves all the time, not allowing other spirits also to use the mediumship of a particular medium. One thing I would say that I see as the most important thing when, reading this chapter here, or one of the most important aspects here that I see for mediums, is we should forget who we are professionally. We should forget who we are in society. When working as mediums, we should be as humble as possible. We should see, if we are writing mediums, we should see ourselves as a pencil. A pencil does nothing, writes nothing, unless there's a hand moving it. The same with speaking mediums. We are a loudspeaker. The loudspeaker doesn't say anything, doesn't utter a single word, unless there's someone talking at one end. So we may be the most famous person on earth, the president of the United States or whoever. When working with mediumship, we try to be as humble as anyone else. As humble. Take everything out. All the ornaments that we have, the titles, the medals, that whatever, and we should see ourselves as equal to the others and as humble as possible. In that way, the work will be effective in this effort. We'll see that good spirits will be with us. Despite our past, our imperfections, they will be with us because they see good intention in doing that. Because as the word says, mediumship, we are a channel, we are a medium. We shouldn't interfere for the sake of the work. Because when we interfere, we either put forward our own ideas, our personal ideas, we create barriers for good spirits to bring clear thoughts that they have and we don't. And also we open ourselves to this kind of spirits. And as we will say, good spirits, when they see this, especially intentionally, and intentional behavior on our side to, use our ego or whatever in this type of work, they give a step back. And of course, those who will approach us are the ones with not so good intentions. So the piece of advice I would give to everyone regarding mediumship, and also, for those doing the dialogue with the spirits, let's put ourselves as the last place, as humble as possible for that work. Because if it is not like that, we will interfere with the work. So we won't be a message from the spirit, but will be what we think of the message from the spirit, what we understand from the message of the spirit. So to be a clear channel, we have to be clean, have to be without any obstruction. So we can be a good channel. And we see that spirits, when they return to the spirit world, It's not the title, the position, the bank account that they had, the influence in society that they had, that will count. Is what actually they bring inside. So we should, have this in mind when working with mediumship, because that is very important indeed. One can never be too prudent when dealing with the publication of such writings. The utopian ideas and eccentricities that usually abound in them, and which violate common sense, elicit a very disagreeable impression in the novices who are taken in by them, giving them an erroneous idea about Spiritism. So we should be careful. We shouldn't be ashamed of having our messages, or embarrassed because our messages are being scrutinized and people are, giving their opinion about the content and the type of spirit who is giving that communication. As I said before, he may not necessarily be an evil spirit, but a spirit who thinks he's right, he understands everything, and his ideas are good, and even think that, by telling us about what he thinks, he's helping us. So we should be careful and analyze in cases, because sometimes you say, oh, I don't feel a bad presence when I write, through the influence of this spirit. Well, we may be one of us here. We return to spirits. We think we know now I understand everything. So I approach one of you mediums and, here on this side, it is like this, it is like that. And I think you should go along these lines, along those lines. And someone who believes, oh, yes, oh, wonderful, wonderful. So starts just, telling everyone about that. And in fact, I'm giving imperfect impressions to people. Hi, Pablo. I see your hand raised.
It's just to comment, we talk about this a few times during this study, just because we pass to the other side doesn't mean that we get enlightened and that we get more clever or more intelligent. So just as much as incarnate people that think that they know it all and that they give wrong opinions, you can have it on the other side as well. So spirits, just like ourselves, that don't know it all, that don't know everything, but they think they do, and they could give misleading testimonies regarding any subject. So yeah, we are just part of this community, even though we are on different sides. So it's interesting to bear in mind that we need to always focus on what that communication is about. So is it something that is good, or is just something that doesn't make sense?
Yeah, for some people, because it comes from spirit, it's true. It's the whole reality. This is one thing we have to change. It's not because it comes and Spiritism shows us very clear. It's not because something comes from the spirit that spirit knows everything and is capable of doing everything. And the second thing is, if I bring you a book and say, oh, this was received through mediumship, and this spirit's telling about the spiritual world, it's telling things, they say, wow, would you believe 100% of what is being said? You wouldn't. You would check a few things. You would see if it made sense. You would check with other books that that are similar. You would go to Kardec, which is, in the end, the work, the Spiritist work is a reference for us to check and say, no, it goes against what is being said here as a collective teaching of so many spirits. So I prefer to stick to the collective filtered work of many spirits than just to accept one testimony, as I said, because that person may be wrong. Suppose you are for another planet, Pablo. You came to Earth and your spacecraft dropped in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And then you talk to your people in your planet and say, here on Earth, everything is sand all around. You are not lying, but you're just giving a tiny perspective of what planet Earth is. Or you go to a city and you meet nasty people. You go to an area of the city where people are nasty and, would you describe the whole entire population of the country or whatever? You just know a small group. And your perception is not broad enough to put that into context and say, oh, this group here. But it seems that, there are other groups and whatever. So it's the same happens when we have messages from spirits, giving us their impression, telling us about their experience. And don't forget, we have our special lenses. We see things through our lenses. It's very interesting to see what Pablo thought of London when he first went to London, what El-Soli thought of London, what Letta thought of London. So I'll take all that and I make my own perception of London without going to London. So that's how we should act. The spirits, no matter how beautiful the message is one message, is the impression of one spirit. For instance, Emmanuel, the spirit guide of Chico Xavier. I always think, when reading his books, they are fantastic, the messages are fantastic, but he had a past in the church. And I ask myself, not that I doubt what he says, but how much of the influence of this past we find in his messages or in his comments about things? Because he had been very important, in the sense, important for the community, for the work that he did as a religious person. So we see, has that actually given certain flavors to his messages. They are beautiful, they are wonderful, they are highly elevated messages, And what if it is a scientist, someone who hasn't had, a past in the church or related to religion, but has always been a philosopher, mathematician, and so on? What would his perception be? Would it be different? So I ask myself, I look at things, saying, well, how much of the personality and past experiences of that spirit is in here when analyzing situations and describing that? Of course, as I said before, Emmanuel is a high-ranked spirit, but every spirit tries or chooses his own pathway. So we can say, oh, they are all enlightened spirits, but each one has had a different history. They followed a different path. They have their own characteristics that, and when looking at messages from spirits, we should look with those eyes, How much of this testimony is biased by the experience that the spirit has had? You see, so we shouldn't be ashamed of looking at messages. And the first thing is, let me check it carefully. Let me see if we can believe in that or not. In doubt, just keep it in a drawer, wait, see if other messages will go along the same lines or not. They also serve as weapons for adversaries to ridicule it. Among such publications are those that, without being evil and without being characterized as obsession, can nevertheless be considered as imprudent, untimely, and incompetent. So it may not necessarily be a spirit who's always there giving a communication, but we may, during, one meeting, receive a message from a spirit who is not highly evolved, and the message, as has been said here, is prudent, untimely, incompetent. That means the spirit has not a background enough on the subject to give us, the certainty of what he's saying. So what I would say is that it's important to doubt everything in this sense. Get the message. If the message comes from an evolved of high spirits, the spirit won't be offended. On the contrary, he said, well, they've learned the lesson. They know that whichever message they receive, whichever communication, it should be scrutinized. So in their messages, there won't be anything that will say, oh, this is wrong, or because they know what they are telling us. So they are not afraid of that. But spirits who have different intentions, they'll be afraid of being discovered. Oh, he's not the one who is saying he is. Or, oh, this content is very superficial, it lacks in depth. So, we should be careful. And it has not to do with the medium directly, because if the message is not mine, if I'm just channel, the spirit is responsible for the content. You may not like perhaps my, handwriting. Okay, maybe I can improve, practicing a bit more, improve a little bit my handwriting. And okay, that's fine. But the content shouldn't be mine, shouldn't be mine. And if I feel offended, it's because, well, these are in part my thoughts, So this is something that we should try to achieve. I'm not saying it's easy. That's why we say to practice with mediumship, to develop mediumship, develop in this sense. Not the faculty per se, but the use of the faculty should be developed for us to see ourselves as a channel all the time, and putting ourselves in the position as humble workers will be more effective in that. So we can detach ourselves from the content of the messages in this sense. I'm doing my part, so the content is the responsibility of whoever used, me as a pencil or a loudspeaker. 248. It frequently happens that a certain medium can only communicate with one particular spirit, who connects itself with him or her and responds on behalf of other spirits. This does not always represent an obsession, since it may result from such a medium's lack of flexibility and from a special affinity on his or her part with this or that spirit. So it's not unusual, it's not obsession. If a certain spirit is there frequently, talking to the medium and sometimes even on behalf of other spirits. But we should tell if it is a case of obsession or not, as it's been said here. It doesn't necessarily mean it is, but it may be a sign. Of course, there will be other signs as well. We have certain affinities with some spirits, so it's natural that those spirits, they come closer to us more often than others. Sometimes we have a strong bond with a certain spirit, even from previous incarnations. So it's a kind of a friend, a companion. Naturally, we'll be talking frequently, and that spirit will be actually being the intermediary between us and other spirits. Okay, but always that's, it doesn't hurt anyone just to be, checking to see, if that is the case, or if it is the case of obsession. Okay. Obsession per se only exists when a spirit imposes itself, and I'll highlight this, imposes itself and willingly drives others away. This is then a sign of obsession. That spirit won't allow. You are basically, about to receive a communication from a certain spirit, but this other spirit comes and interferes. If it is a good spirit, we won't do that. It may be a spirit close to you who frequently communicates, but if it's not his turn, he will respect that. But a sign of obsession is when the spirit who is frequently there imposes itself and willingly drives others away, which is never done by a good spirit. Normally, the spirits who latch onto mediums in order to dominate them do not bear up under a critical examination of their communications. That's why I say mediums are more sensitive than, I would say, ordinary people because of mediumship. Mediumship is about sensitivity. And mediums are, have that, how would I say, on their skin. So they react more easily to things. They are more easily affected by comments, by, things in general, even the environment around them, things that they cannot see, but they are more affected than other people. So they should be always vigilant to see if they are too touchy when people comment or question the message that they receive. As I said before, I'm a medium, I'm naturally more sensitive, so I should, watch my behavior, not to let myself be, so much influenced by that. Because as they say here, the examination of their communications can't be, accepted by spirits who want to dominate the medium. So it may be, that the medium may reject any comment, any analysis of the message, not because of himself so much, but because of the influence of the spirit as well. So we see that we have signs that show under normal circumstances what could be leading to obsession. So obsession is not like that, it happens all of a sudden and establishes itself there. No, it happens in a progressive way, and we have the means to prevent that. When they see that such communications are not blindly accepted, but are submitted to discussion, they do not leave their mediums. Instead, they suggest the thought to them that they should avoid others. Oh, this group, they're always analyzing my messages. I think they don't like me. I think they have, something against me, or, oh, I'll leave the group. I don't want to know about them anymore. And this is common. We see that happening in mediumship groups, when people feel personally offended because someone questioned the content of one message that they received. So this is something very important to bear in mind, that the spirits who want to obsess the medium, they don't like, they try to take the medium away from any comment, any group where the spirit feels that they will find out, who he is and what he's doing. They'll discover that. And quite often, they order them to do so. So you see, it comes from the spirits. All mediums who feel offended at criticisms of their communications are in fact echoing the spirit's dominating them. And such a spirit cannot be good, since it inspires them with the illogical thought of rejecting scrutiny. We should write in big letters this in front of us, and see if we start to show some of these signs. We don't want my messages to be, I don't want anyone to comment on my messages. I received the message, so I know it comes from a highly evolved spirit, because I receive highly evolved spirits, and this sort of thing. So we should be careful. Hi, Anseli.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody. Morning, Munir, Pablo. I think about this situation, exactly 248, because between incarnated two, it happens many times, And we must think about how we do to know how I can do to works about with somebody is very tasked on with me. So, but why I think it maybe this one spirit is using this. It's not. I don't talk about mediumship meeting. No. I talk about in the day by day. It happens. The interesting because usually we are a copy of the spiritual life here in the earth, and it's very. I think is almost naturally. It's happened. They usually use us or people is very sensitive to know to do something bad with. And I ask you, we know this is possible. Yeah, we know that every day we live here in the earth, and this this person is medium and works to me. Some medium is, I think, is very complicated, very complicated, because if I am actually I am a medium, a little bit medium, a little medium I am, and I know if I studied in the Spirit's doctrine, I know Evangelho home, Evangelho, Gospel home. I know my behavior, what I must to do to be better or better. Sometimes I work very hard out myself because I know I must change me. And I ask you now, Manu, what's happened with medium that they attract similar? You know that. We know that too. Then what's happened with this medium? What's happened with this spirits that they try dominate? Because this person and I talk to is a dominator too. A person dominate, and we know we have the politics, we have abroad. We see at people, so what's happened with them, because they usually learn about a little here. We live here, but when we don't, what's happened with this medium, and what's happened with this spiritus? Dominate spiritus would like dominate everything all the time.
Yes. Yeah, I would start, answering your question by saying, first and foremost, what Kardec said is, he didn't say without spiritism there's no salvation. Salvation in the case of, sorting out situations, and he said, without charity. So whenever we put ourselves in the right path, in the sense of a behavior and so on, even if we are not spiritist, even if we are miles away from any spiritist teaching or wherever, what is important is our behavior, and that will dictate, establish the, kind of a atmosphere, spiritual atmosphere that we have around us. And of course, if we are mediums, practicing or not, we'll be under the influence of spirits more easily than other people. But as we've seen before, also for those who are not mediums, if spirits want to create a situation for a person who is not a medium, they would They use other people, around that. But and spirits, they were adamant when asked if we were under the influence of spirits. They had more than you think. But the thing is, you have a good close friend. You like very much this friend. Would you all the time be asking this friend to tell you what you should do? No, I'm sure you wouldn't. You have your own mind. You have your own, desires. You have your own ideas. So you would perhaps share with that person and listen to what they have to say. But the final decision is always yours. With obsession, is more or less like that. You put yourself under the influence of the spirits, and you are comfortably, there, just sitting, as it were, expecting every answer to come from the spirit. And the spirits, sometimes they, come and influence us because they want revenge for something we did in the past. But we'll see that is not always the case. It may be that the spirit likes, I like the way this guy offers himself as an instrument to my ideas, or even, I feel alive through him because I can influence the physical world. He will listen all the time to what I have to say. So I'll guide his life. So the spirit somehow is, sharing the physical life with that medium. And we'll see that there are so many reasons why, obsession happens. It is a natural process. It's a process of tuning in with that spirit. So we are opening that door. We allow that door to keep, to stay open. Because according to our behavior, and again, I don't need to be a spiritist, but according to my thoughts, my behavior, my past, of course, my tendencies, my virtues, my vices, I will attract certain types of spirits who don't necessarily will latch on to me, but they say, wow, I like this guy. He does a lot of charity. I like that very much. I'll help him in that. So a good spirit will be with us, helping us, because what we do is along the lines of the things the spirit likes doing. But the contrary is also true. Oh, this guy, look, the kind of, vices that he has, and he enjoys that kind of life, and I do also. So, I'll stick to him, I'll be with him because it's good fun, It's like that. So in principle, the process is very simple. But of course, it's not easy for us to change. It's not easy for us to sort out a difficult situation we created for ourselves in the past. It's not easy. It requires effort 24/7 throughout the life. And that's why we are here for, to make this improvement. And in the end of the day, what counts is not who we are today. It is important who we are, where we managed to get, but how much effort are we putting into walking a bit further, becoming a bit better, improving ourselves a little more, taking advantage of all that we receive. And sometimes the lessons we receive, they are disguised in misfortunes. So how much are we taking in positive aspects of our lives? Because this is an opportunity. This is a school for us with personalized lessons. And we are all the time rejecting them, They are just cursing everything, everyone, and, on the contrary, say, this is temporary. This is my lesson. I make the effort to go, in this direction, which I think is a good one. But if it takes time, fine. That's because it needs time to actually, happen. And so this is what is expected from us. Not that we become saints, beautiful, bright spirits all of a sudden. No. Hi, Liz.
Hi there, everyone. Earlier,
Thank you.
earlier that you mentioned that people around us can become vectors, yeah, and this is quite common, but we also must remember that as mediums, we too can be vectors. And I should think it's easier for the spirits to communicate with mediums, and they can make us vectors and help us derail others as well as ourselves through this.
Yes, yes, yeah, you're right. It's the same for everyone. They can be vectors in our
Yeah.
case, but we can also be vectors in their case. And it's amazing. I don't know if it happened to you sometimes under negative influence. We don't realize, but our perception of something that a person said or of a situation is totally different from the reality. We look at that and we see, normally we see the evil in things, you know, it's more common than to see the good in things where there is little good than to see evil in things that in principle are good. And our perception is so much distorted, and that is enough for a situation to be created and affect someone else. All of a sudden, I understood that that person was actually criticizing me or saying something nasty against me. And then if I'm overreactive, I'll just go and, perhaps even start, aggression or whatever, a fight with that person. And then it's done, it's the situation has been created there. And in reality, if we just stop and say, oh, I don't think I understood what you said. Do you mean this and that? This person, no, I didn't say this word. I said that. Oh, right, okay, fine. You see? So these situations sometimes are very common. That's why we shouldn't overreact. We shouldn't react as such. As Divaldo Franco said, we are reacting all the time. If someone, steps on our foot, immediately we push the person. Instead of saying, oh, hello, I think your foot is, nicely laying down on my foot. And so we should watch ourselves before overreacting or reacting, because when we react, we lose this control. And it's the same with mediumship. We shouldn't overreact. We shouldn't just give, way to everything, every thought, whatever, without analyzing, without checking, without perceiving the impressions left by the spirit. I say, well, the ideas, yeah, it doesn't say anything that can harm, but I don't know, I feel uncomfortable with that. I feel uncomfortable with that spirit. So, well, watch and see, if that is something that is common, or maybe in that occasion, the presence of someone else or whatever. But we should always be vigilant, always, and pray. So that advice, pray and be vigilant, is very important. Keep our thoughts elevated through praying. Pray in the sense of always trying to be connected to higher spirits through higher ideas, not, as I said before, overreacting to things, and being vigilant, checking everything. Doesn't hurt, just say, well, I had this intuition, and does it make sense? Yeah. Would I do that? Yes, yeah, I think, yeah, okay, it's a good piece of advice. All right, I'll take that. But sometimes, said, no, I wouldn't do that. I think that can, harm this person, create this situation, and I won't do this time. Okay, thanks for the advice, but, I won't do it. And then we can check the results or the possible results of accepting or not accepting certain ideas. That's why when I say, we should be, be vigilant all the time, is checking all the time. And also being putting ourselves in a very humble position, accepting that we are an instrument, we can fail, so we should be extra careful. Like, drivers who just got their driving license, they are extra careful. Once they get confident, they do all sorts of things. And then that's when danger becomes a reality. We think that we can do everything, you know, that comes into our mind, and, you know, speeding up when we shouldn't, or doing certain kinds of maneuvers that, you know, may risk ourselves and others as well. It's the same with mediumship. Never, you know, confident enough to neglect these rules, these golden rules in science. Okay. It's always harmful to mediums to isolate themselves because there is no control mechanism for their communications. They should not only receive clarification from third parties, but should also study all the forms of communication in order to compare them. By limiting themselves to those they receive, no matter how good they may seem, they remain exposed to being deceived as to their true value. They should also consider the fact that they cannot know everything, and that they always go around and around within the same circle of ideas. See number 192, exclusive mediums, in the sense that exclusive to certain spirits. So we see here very clearly the importance of being in group, the importance of practicing mediumship in group. We are mediums 24/7, and some mediums can receive communication even when they are on their own. Is this the ideal situation? Well, for some mediums, it's not a problem because they are very experienced mediums. But even in those cases, the best practice is always in group, not only for support that sometimes we need, depending on the kind of work that we do, because work with mediumship is not just receiving nice, encouraging messages, or, you know, receiving messages from our loved ones who return to spirits or whatever. You know, there is a work with suffering spirits, with obsessors, that is very important. And that's why this kind of work should always be done in group, should have study as well. So the study will, like we're doing here, you know, we clarify, we present the situation, the reality as it is. So will help us through the process as well. And also to have the comments, to have the suggestion from, you know, other people. So common when we have a group of mediums who are beginning to practice, and we have more experienced mediums there. They will show us, you know, how to behave or handle certain situations that will come. It's natural. It's part of the, you know, of dealing with mediumship. So they share their experience with us. Not that mediumship, you know, couldn't be done in a smaller group, and, you know, perhaps even, you know, on their own. I know that when I was in the UK, and we used to receive, for instance, Divaldo Franco for a series of lectures in London, and I remember him saying that he would go to the hotel afterwards and go into early morning, writing messages from his spirit guide or the spirits who normally communicate through him. He said, "This is the time that I have to, you know, give communication." At one point, he was so busy in his daily activities in Salvador, in Bahia, here in Brazil. He was so busy that he said his spirit guide, Joanna de Angelis, she came to him. He was about to go to bed, and then he said, "Oh, I'm really tired. You know, it's late, and I have a terrible, you know, very busy day," and so on. And then she said to him, "Okay, so prepare to work." He said, come, you know, my time to rest," and so on. He said, "No, we work with you while your body is resting, is sleeping." So he said that he, you know, received a lot of messages in that condition. The body was sleeping. He was, you know, detached from the body and receiving the message. His hand was writing. So he had to adapt his bed to, you know, allow writing messages to be received. Or I think later he was receiving messages on the computer, typing them directly on the computer, if I'm not mistaken, or typewriter or whatever. But it was for us to see when the medium is experienced, the situation is established. Not that it won't happen, what we are describing here. Attempts will be all the time, but the medium is vigilant and he knows how to handle it. This is the thing, you know. For the beginner, everything is a challenge, everything is difficult. So we should be extra careful in this sense. For experienced mediums, they know how to act, they know what to do, they know, you know, how to handle the situation. And in principle, they can easily spot what is going on, if they are going, you know, in the direction of an obsession or not. And they may even be obsessed by spirits, as we are going to see here in this chapter. It's a simple obsession. That means the persistent presence of a spirit, not necessarily that the spirit will prevent us from working with other spirits or so on, but the spirit is always there tempting. It's always there tempting. So if we, you know, we should be on guard all the time. So experienced mediums, they perceive that they are on guard, but the spirits are always there. They want to somehow create a situation for us. They want to affect the work we are doing for one reason or another. By experienced medium, until we get, you know, become experienced mediums, you know, we have to practice. Discipline is very important. Study is very important. Practice in group is very important. Accepting comments, accepting advice, accepting, you know, the perception of other mediums and other people, suggestions and so on. This is very important. That's why I say it's so important to be humble, because, you know, if I have a very important position in life and say, how come that guy, you know, he's almost illiterate and he's coming to give me some advice regarding mediumship? No, I won't accept that. So we start to mix things, our pride, you know. So once we are there in the group, in the mediumship group, we are equals. We are human beings. We are souls, imperfect souls, trying to do a work which is not ours. We are guests. We are guests who are under the favor of good spirits who thought that in inviting us for their work, that would help us first to improve, to see the suffering and alleviate the suffering of other spirits. So we should be thankful for being part and not, you know, proud that, oh, I'm a good medium, and, you know, like we've seen in the past, the spirit who failed. There is a case, I can't remember exactly in which book, but the spirits, you know, he realized how many wrongs he had done in his previous incarnation. So he asked all sorts of things for him, to become blind and lame and with all sorts of problems. And then his tutor, he said to him, no, we've checked with you know, the higher spheres, and they said, no, you won't have any of that. You would fail. So the only thing you come with in this incarnation that is about to start is with mediumship. You will learn how to serve, how, you know, to help other people. So when he became an important medium, in the sense that, you know, his work was really requested by people who were suffering, who had cases of obsession and so on. He decided to, you know, stay home and be on holidays and say, no, oh, that is upsetting me too much. I don't want this kind of work. I want to live my life, and so on and so forth. So he had asked all sorts of things. And they said, no, it's too much. Come with mediumship, so you have a normal life, but you be a medium at the service of, you know, incarnates and spirits as well. And he failed because he thought he was, you know, he could choose who to help. And there was a case of this woman with a daughter, young lady, and they went to his house and said, aren't you going to the spiritual center today? Because my daughter is under the influence of evil spirits. She's obsessed, and we need you. We need your work. And he said, oh, no, just leave me alone. And, you know, for us to see that when we hear that the work of mediumship, you know, is something sacred, it is. It is sacred. It's very important. And it is an exercise, an opportunity that we have to exercise, humility, to exercise good virtues, to learn how to do that. We need that as spirits who are progressing. We need to develop that. So it is a wonderful opportunity for us to practice that. When we enter the Spiritist Center to do work with mediumship, we are equal, we are humble. We should see ourselves all dressing this white gown, everyone, the same gown, the same type of gown, with no different faces, no different bank accounts, no different positions, no different titles, nothing. When we are there, it's our soul, what our soul really is. Because since the communication with spirits is perispirit to perispirits, and we could say it's spirits to spirits. So what counts is what we have inside, not what we have on the outside. So before going into the mediumship room, we should undress ourselves of our titles, everything that we have, and put ourselves as equals there. Then we can do a good work, and then we can prevent obsession to take place, because our pride stays on the outside. And since we are advised not to take what happens inside the mediumship room to the outside world, that's it. Inside, we are who we truly are. Of course, on the outside, we have the opportunity to take, what we've learned during the mediumship meeting. We take, and then we start to change the guy on the outside, the guy in the world, the us in the world. We start to change from these moments, these opportunities that we have. So it is an opportunity. Mediumship, it is an opportunity. And we see that, we will see further down this chapter how important it is, because we will attract good spirits. They will come to help us when they see the slightest effort for us to become good instrument, become better spirits, better individuals. And of course, if we don't want to do that, we reject their good advice and everything. So they're just, okay, you have your free will. I will watch you from a distance. They won't leave us completely. I watch you from a distance to respect your free will. These are your choices. But of course, you have to live with those who think alike and those who want to do the same things you want to do, and so on. It's natural. It's just natural. So that's it. I've talked too much. Right. Oh, we're nearly, our time is almost up. So I don't know if you people have questions, or if we could finish. You're all quiet. Okay. Oh, hi, Osoli. Sorry. Yeah. Very, very briefly, because we have 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's it. Maybe because I feel 3 times now. I feel some like I fainted. I disappear, and I would like to know it's just because one some minutes we start mediumship, or something with me, because I had breakfast, I slept, and I would like to know if somebody see. I would like help, please. On see it is some spirits, because no problem. I stay here, of course, but I would like to know.
Most likely, Elsali, since you're about to start, mediumship work, and we know that things start to happen the day before, or even sometimes during the week before, and it's most likely, but certainty you'll only get, after the work and so on, because it can be anything. It's difficult just to say it is this or it is that. But since yeah, we do, the practice, on Saturdays as well, you may be already under a certain influence. If once the second meeting is over, and you still feel that, you go and check, to see if it's not something, organic or whatever. Okay.
So yeah, it means I will go in the part of the mediumship today.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Let's
you.
just say a quick prayer of thanks, closing our eyes, thanking our guardian angel for overlooking our development, our participation here, the good spirits who invited us, allowed us to be here, and to have this precious opportunity of learning more about mediumship, about the spirit world, and of course, how to use this in our daily life. So we thank them very dearly and ask their permission to end our meeting. So be it.
So be it.
Thank you all very much for your patience, for
Thank you.
your participation, for your presence. And I wish you a wonderful week and hope to see you all next Saturday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. God bless.
Bye-bye.